Chronicles TV on air. We are now live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to why is she here? I thought we were only talking about Mikotoba, but okay. Welcome back to another episode of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. In the previous episode, we did another Reaper of the Bailey's trial once again. Today's episode right now, we got Mikotoba on the stand with Maria Gori, or which we did not understand. But anyways, if you're hot today's episode, make sure that like was post picture. So witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. Eugene Mikotoba, lecturer of the forensic medicine at the Imperial University in Tokyo, Japan. Why are you here? And Professor Mikotoba, the young lady beside you is? This is Dr. Maria Gori, Scotland Yard's practicing coroner, the daughter of Dr. Scythe, I understand? Yes, Dr. Scythe. I'm afraid I can't tell you why she's here. She's just appeared. Turn the freaking... Thank you!
You summoned this strange Japanese man as a witness to that autopsy? But you don't summon Mama? That makes no sense. She was there too.
She got a cleaver. That's about the size of it. I've had her eyes boring into my side of shape constantly, well as I was in the anti-chamber too.
Poor man. The idea of it's making me shudder.
The revelation...
We never found out who her husband was, didn't we?
The revelation about the Dr. Scythe that came to light some days ago defiled the reputation of the entire judiciary. She was therefore deemed unfit to appear as a witness in today's proceedings. The Ministry of Justice decision on that is final. Well, we couldn't want any more perjury to be committed, would we?
Just keep it on the old times, miss. The Ministry of Justice. Some questionable strings are being pulled, I think.
I remember you, Dr. Mikotoba, but I certainly never expected to be meeting you under these circumstances. Yes, it's been a long while, Lord Strongheart. The prosecution understands that you were a visiting student of forensic science in London until 10 years ago. That's right. I studied under Dr. Wilson at St. Sinners. So you were present at the autopsy of my brother, Lord Klint von Zieks. I was, yes. I assisted Dr. Wilson with the entire procedure.
Mama is far more skilled than any Japanese man.
Well, Dr. Wilson asked me to be his primary assistant on that occasion. And this autopsy report was actually penned by you, I believe? Yes. I noted all the doctor's findings, and when we were done, he read through the document and signed it.
Poor Mama. As secondary assistant, she wouldn't have such a good view on the innards.
So, Professor, do you remember Inspector Gregson? Yes, of course. If it wasn't for his insistence, Lord von Zieks' autopsy would never have happened. But he was absolutely convinced that it would reveal decisive evidence against Genshin, you see. So Lord Strongheart had to entreat the nobility to allow it to take place. Do correct me if I'm wrong, my lord. It was a result of the autopsy that masked murderer was apprehended and justice was done. But Gregson admitted it before he was killed. He admitted that the result of the autopsy were fabricated. You were there at the time, so you must testify. You have an obligation to tell the truth about what really went on. Absolutely. That's precisely why I'm here.
And that's why I'm here too.
You gotta be somewhere else? Very well then. You will give your formal testimony now, witnesses. But before you begin a word of warning. Oh? You will state truthfully and accurately what you saw and what you heard at the time. I wouldn't dream of doing otherwise, my lord. The moment your testimony verges on suppression, I will expel you from my courtroom. Remember that. The autopsy of Klint von Zieks. From my own observation, I couldn't say there was any indication of the autopsy results being fabricated. But death resulted from a wound made by Western-style sword transfixing the heart. That I found a little strange.
There were no other signs of internal injury, nothing unquestionable at all. It was just a beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach.
Presumed to have swallowed by the victim as a way of posthumously identifying his assailant. I don't know. No indication. Nothing to suggest fabrication? Professor Mikatoba, are you certain about that? Hell, nothing that I could possibly identify as such, much less swear to testimony. Well, that clears things up nicely. The only fabrication here, Asogi, has come from you. What? You claim the inspector confessed just before his death, but that is a fabrication. No, he freely acknowledged it. I swear he did. Freely? With the tip of the sword at his throat? That man was clearly at his wit's end. The court will give no credence to this confession that was uttered in obvious desperation. Quite simply, there was nothing questionable about the investigation of Lord Klint von Zieks' death. And with this testimony we have, without question, uncovered the whole truth of the matter. If I may, my lord, there was most certainly something questionable about it, and the whole truth does rather elude us, I feel. I beg your pardon? Well, you're obviously aware of the facts of the case. All four of the professor's previous victims died when an enormous beast was set upon them that ripped out their throats.
Oh, such horrifying crimes.
But curiously, the killer's last victim, Lord Klint von Zieks, suffered a different fate.
Yes, you're right. He was stabbed through the heart with a sword.
That's enough. Wrong voice. I believe I warned you about this, witness. I promised to curtail your testimony as soon as it entered the realms of suspicion or speculation. Ugh. Very well, my lord. In that case, the defense will pursue a conclusion to this during the cross-examination. What? I have the right to cross-examine every witness after testimony. And I fully intend to exercise that right. Ryunosuke.
I'm afraid that even the presiding judge has no authority to contravene the letter of the law, as I'm sure every member of the judiciary present in the gallery would agree.
Testify! Testify! Very well, you may begin, counsel. However, the moment your argument strays from the established facts, I will not hesitate to bring the cross-examination to an end. Proceed with caution. Yes, my lord. What do we got? From my own observation, I couldn't say there was any indication of the autopsy results having fabricated. Let me see that thing. No, wrong thing. I'm out of habit. What do we got? 9 p.m. and midnight. Observations death from a single stab wound to the heart. Other superficial external roots indicated of a duel. Additional notes: recent scar-like stains visible on the little and ring fingers of the right hand, but no documented corresponding ink was found. What does that mean? Vital evidence recovered from the victim's stomach during autopsy. Credit to Inspector Griggs for petitioning the blah blah blah. No return trauma noted anywhere. Couldn't say there was any indication that autopsy was being fabricated. Death resulted from a wound made by Western-style sword transfixing the heart. That I found a little strange. There were no other signs of internal injury, nothing questionable at all. It was just a beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach. Presumed to have been swallowed by the victim as a way. I have no idea what that says.
Hold it!
In all the previous 4 killings attributed to the professor, the victims were killed by an enormous dog, I believe. Their throats were, well, mauled? Correct. And yet Lord von Zieks was stabbed. Do you mean to say you think Lord Klint von Zieks, that's a long name, may not in fact have been one of Professor's victims? There is no basis on which to doubt the findings of the investigations carried out at the time, blah blah. But Genshin Osogi confessed to all of his crimes upon his arrest. He admitted to having taken the lives of all 5 members of the aristocracy. Yet the beast that was used to carry out the killings was never identified. No evidence was found to suggest that Genshin had ever kept a dog. A true hound of hell. We did find the freaking collar before.
There were no other signs of internal injury.
Nothing questionable at all. It was just a beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach. What exactly was it though? What does beautiful but dangerous mean?
Well, it was
that noise?
It was sparkly round with a hole, as it might slip over the finger, perhaps.
It was a ring belonging to Genshin Osogi. My father's ring was inside the victim's stomach? At the time, Genshin wore a large ring on the dignitary's quarters of the left hand, the 4th or ring finger. The married ring? I understood it was some sort of keepsake. When my father left Japan for London 16 years ago, I was 8 years old, but I remember that ring. You do? My father's possessions were sent to our family's home in Japan after his death, but the ring wasn't among them. Obviously not. It was a key piece of evidence. It remains under lock and key in the stores at Scotland Yard to this day. After the autopsy, Genshin was summoned by the police to check the presence of this ring. It wasn't on his hand, of course. Moreover, there were deep abrasions on his finger where it had been pulled off. They arrested the man there, and right before my eyes. How could they?
I brought the ring along with me today.
What?
Here it is, a bit dusty from years in the stores.
Good gracious, yes, that's it. I haven't seen that ring in 10 years. Then, that was found inside the victim's stomach? Yes, I'm afraid so. You hesitated there, Professor Mikatoba. Should we read something into that? Well, it's just that thinking back now, I didn't actually witness the moment it was extracted from the victim's body.
Oh my, really?
At the precise moment, Dr. Wilson had asked me to fetch him a new scalpel, you see? Dr. Gory, the removal of historic events from the stores requires my consent, does it not? However it came to be here, the court cannot deny that it is crucial evidence for today's proceedings. Very well, you may submit it. It's not that sort of ring normally seen in Japan. They almost look like claws protecting that jewel. We must examine it carefully, Mr. Naruto. Very careful. Chill, because I don't want to press anything. Let me see. What the heck is that? Whatever. Get to the point, Chief. Not that point! The fat claws are doing a good job of protecting the equally fat gemstone in the middle of this ring.
Yes, if you were clumsy, you could give yourself a rather nasty cut on them, I think.
Ow.
Now my finger's blinging. The claws really are sharp. Oh my, that was really quick clumsiness, Mr. Naruto, even for you.
Who would make such a dangerous ring?
You couldn't swallow it without doing yourself some fairly serious damage, surely. A sticky mochi bun about it the size would go down much better, with some red bean paste in the middle.
Someone as clumsy as me would probably manage to choke on it somehow. The only thing is this, that's it. She said carefully, but I can't do the thing when everything's all moving because of Joy-Con drift. Is there anything abnormal? Nothing unusual. I'm going to get you a Soki found on Lord Convi's stomach during the autopsy. The claws clasping the gem looked sharp enough to cause a very nasty scratch. Autopsy report. Death from a single stab wound to the heart. Other superficial external wounds indicated a duel. Recent scarlet ink stains visible on the little and ring fingers of the right hand, but no document in the corresponding ink was found. He said right. Of the right hand, but he said left. The result of the wound that I found a little strange. It was just beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach.
Hold it!
And that was the decisive piece of evidence that led to Genshin's Asogi arrest. Correct. After further investigation by Scotland Yard, the man admitted to his crimes. That's a lie. My father was no killer. But Beric von Zieks, it was you. You twisted the truth to suit your purposes. Your hatred of me doesn't change the facts that were established 10 years ago. My brother Klint had close in the professor. In the end, he exposed the man and put a stop to this lethal rampage. Perhaps because 10 years ago, something had happened that's weighing on his mind. I couldn't say were his words. That phrasing was very, I wonder if he had suspicions all these years. If that's the case, we need to use this cross-examination to prove what really happened. There was fabricated evidence. He said the left ring, but what the heck? Move it! Let me see that ring again. Ring belonged to Genshin, found in the Lord Clan Zieks. Belonging to Genshin and Sogi, found in the Lord stomach during the autopsy. The claws crossing the gem looked sharp enough to cause a very nasty scratch. And that's his, right? It's Genshin's ring, but his additional recent scarlet ink stains are visible on the little and ring fingers of the right hand. Oh, it's a stain, but no document of corresponding ink was found. But was there any stain? Now, that's the scarlet color I ever seen. That's all there is.
Hold it!
You couldn't say? No, sadly not. But then you couldn't say there wasn't any indication either, could you? No, true. I couldn't. I was at Dr. Wilson's side of his performance as he performed the procedure according to what he did. But at times, of course, he instructed me to fetch implements as such like. Well, as I was away from operating table, I obviously could have missed something. And those times, what was the secondary assistant doing? Oh my.
Following this Japanese man's orders to adjust the lighting or pass some implements. But that doesn't mean Mama was a vital part of the team.
Right, yes, so would you kindly refrain from staring at my cheek like that? Professor Migatoba, think! Was there nothing at all that seemed out of place to you? Well, yes, there was, a matter of fact. The death resulted from a wound made by boosted sword transfixed to the heart. That I found a little strange. There were no other signs of internal injury. Nothing questionable at all. But, you weren't actually present at the autopsy yourself, were you, Dr. Gory?
Does that matter?
Well, I just wonder how useful your testimony could be in that case, really. I mean, it could be different if your mother, Dr. Scythe, were in the stand, but...
I read all the paperwork about the case, and Mama told me about the story countless times. The statement I just made is exactly what's written in the autopsy report.
I did confirm that myself at the time, it's true. Besides the stab wound, there were no other signs of internal trauma.
I see. Mama told me all about it.
Oh?
She said there was nothing of note internally. But they did find an amazing piece of evidence. Something unbelievable.
Unbelievable? What do you mean? Come on, Dr. Gory, what was it? It was just that beautiful, dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach. Presumed to have been swallowed by the victim as a way to identify his assailant. There was no other sense of internal injury. It's nothing internal at all. Okay, what do we have? Claws clasping the gem, sharp enough to cause a very nasty scratch. It's either the ring? I'm lost for words. Can we do the thing? No. Glenn's passport, Rick Truck, Silky Papers. I don't know what I'm looking for. It's either the ring? Anything noteworthy in this photograph? I don't think so. Nope. It has to be either the ring or the autopsy report. Recent scarlet visible on the little ring fingers to the right hand, but no documented corresponding ink was found. Death was single stabbed into the heart. Other superficial vital savage recovered from victim stomach. Putting officer credit to Inspector Grazer for petitioning and dodging. Recovered from the stomach. I'm lost for words right now, but... But who's the one that authorized that is my question. It's... Nope. 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 So what exactly are they trying to ask for? They're asking for... Can you go over that again? You mean this large ring, obviously.
That's right. Pulled from the victim's stomach once it had been sliced open nicely.
It was my brother's final move before he perished. The ingenious want to leave us a clue by which to identify his killer. He must have ripped the ring from Genshin's finger with his teeth before swallowing it to keep it from being retrieved. That was prevailing hypothesis at the time. With his teeth? On his arrest, Genshin Tatsugi's ring finger on his left hand was found, badly wounded. Evidence of my brother's final struggle against the man. All for this ring? Okay, I have no idea why I'm so suppressed. The death resulted from a wound by a Western-style sword heart that I found a little strange. Over that again. All the proofs, blah blah. Yo, I seriously don't know. Because what exactly are we trying to press? Wait a minute. There were no signs of internal injury, nothing questionable. Who's... Okay, this could be this. He said Western style, right? If he was the killer, and he said Western style, right?
Objection!
Okay, never mind, I got nothing. Okay. That's what I was trying to go for, but I guess not. Because he said he was died by the Western style sword, but Asogi has Karuma. So what exactly? Please tell me you got the thing. Can I do the thing? Come on.
Objection! Objection!
Oh, wow. It really was the middle one. The court has heard the ring was extracted from the victim's stomach, but you didn't actually see it being removed. Did you, Professor Mikotoba? That's right, as I said in my testimony before. At the moment, I was fetching a replacement scalpel. In other words, you can neither confirm nor deny whether this ring, in fact, really came from the victim's stomach or not. What are you suggesting, counsel? The ring was never found in the victim's stomach to begin with. Entirely feasible that Dr. Wilson fabricated the detail about the autopsy. What are you saying, Dr. Wilson? That Dr. Wilson was in possession of the ring in advance, and after it's somehow stolen from Asogi, and he produced during the procedure, pretending to found it there and then in the victim's stomach. Supposition at best. What possible evidence do you have to support such rash claim? The evidence, right here. That's the autopsy report. It's explicit in the report, counsel. And other than the ring, nothing unusual was noted internal. So I'm sure how you intend to prove your point. You've already done it for me, my lord. The lack of internal injury says it all. What? To swallow a ring of this size would require considerable effort and determination. And in addition to its size, there are sharp claws around the gemstone to contend with. My brother was a determined man, and on the brink of death, even more so, I'm sure. He would have stopped nothing to ensure that evil killer was brought to justice. But if he really had swallowed that enormous ring, it's inconceivable that no traces of its passage down to his throat would have remained as an eternal trauma. No. And there you have right to a sticking point. That's precisely why I had my doubts about the fight myself 10 years ago. Then why did you just say something at the time? I did. I still remember the conversation I had with Dr. Wilson in the laboratory that day. Look at this! Now, this is a very curious thing to find in a man's stomach, wouldn't you say? But isn't that rather peculiar, Dr. Wilson? What's that now, Mikotoba? Well, if he swallowed a ring of that size with that sharp metal claw that it has, surely you expect to see damage in the throat and esophagus, torn mucous membranes at the very least. Dr. Mikatoba, may I remind you that I have vastly more experience than you. I'm terribly sorry. I could think of plenty of ways to explain why no injuries would be seen. No, let's say this. The victim would appear to have ingested the item as evidence to identify his assailant. Go ahead, write it down. Did he not just say that? So I was right. Dr. Wilson deliberately fabricated the result of the autopsy to implicate my father. And I'm disappointed, Counsel. That argument is nothing more than speculation. What? Dr. Wilson was Britain's leading authority on forensic science autopsy work. There is no significant scientific basis on which to doubt the man's expert opinion. Pardon the interruption, my lord, but damage to the mucous membranes of the throat is easily identified even in living subjects.
Using a device called endoscope, recently demonstrated in a practical use in France. I want one. The government can pay.
I don't think so. And Dr. Gory, rest assured that your removal of evidence from the stores without permission will not go unpunished.
We open up the dead to find the truth.
I beg your pardon?
But Mama, she chose to stitch her corpses up with all her secrets inside. That's wrong.
Dr. Gory, it's looking as though she's chosen to walk a different path to her mama. We never found out who the father was. Oh, man. Yes, the ring. What about the ring? I've just remembered something. An earlier incident. What incident? The one I recounted to you before, about a memory I have of Genshin Asogi saving my life. What? My father? Save your life? It was 10 years ago on a foggy night. Genshin and I were walking down the back streets at the late hour. All of a sudden... Don't make a peep. You're coming with us. All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scarves. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cob street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He shielded me. It was on the ring finger on his left hand that he used to wear that ring. Are you saying... I've always believed those thugs were after me. But now I'm starting to question if perhaps I wasn't the intended target after all. Wait, but... Genshin was arrested 2 days after the attack. And in that short interval, the decisive evidence needed to indicate him was miraculously found. You mean, the ring was stolen from him? You think that's what those thugs were after that night?
Objection!
You pathetic coward. You expect me to believe that you weren't involved. What do you mean by that? It was you, wasn't it? You're the one who took it. You stole my father's ring. You set the whole thing up so you could paint him as the mass murderer. And haven't... Kazuma, open your eyes. Ryosuke, you must know deep down that the truth can be completely obscured even with your judgment is only slightly clouded. But at the moment, you seem to be floundering through a dense fog. Is that why you were so insistent I should be present in the trial? To see you like this? Well, this is an amusing spectacle. What a grand dose of expression on your face, as if you were Lady Justice herself. It seems you've thoroughly convinced yourself of this alleged fabrication of the autopsy results, so much that you're apparently blind to the blatant contradiction that would be born out of it.
What?
Though it's extremely hard to believe, let us imagine that there was some misconduct during the autopsy. If that were the case, why would Asogi not have disputed the findings in his trial? Oh. In the closed court hearing 10 years ago, the defendant never once denied claims against him. Isn't that right, Lord von Zieks? Yes, that is indeed correct. Upon hearing the verdicts of guilty, he merely closed his eyes, quietly accepting the judgment. The actions of a man who's accepted responsibility for his deeds and is resigned to his fate.
But then... Oh my, that is very strange. If Mr. Asogi did nothing to oppose the charges against him, then... that would surely mean there was no fabricated evidence.
An obvious conclusion at which you should have arrived many minutes ago, Prosecutor Asogi. Your twisted loyalty and clouded judgment are hampering your ability for logical thought. Genshin Asogi's silence at his hearing can only mean one thing. There was no fabrication of evidence during the autopsy of his final victim 10 years ago. But if that autopsy was all above board, there would be nothing to stop Lord Strongheart bringing this trial to any conclusion.
Objection!
Thank you, Rinosuke. If it wasn't for you, your frank words just now, this trial may have well ended prematurely. Kazuma? What this latest absurdity of counsel? My lord, your reasoning is perfectly sound, but for one giant hole, I beg your pardon? You claim my father's silence was due to the fact that there was no fabricated evidence. But there's another possible explanation. You've overlooked the possibility that he had a reason for maintaining that silence.
Objection!
Silence that would lead to him being convicted and sent to his death? If the autopsy results were an invention, there is no inconceivable reason why the man would have protested.
Objection!
Oh, those results were an invention, alright. There's no question of that. Or are you forgetting that two people with a connection to Autopsy have been assassinated? If I force the grievances I feel from my mind, I start to see you in a very different light. I think perhaps it's you who's been living in a delusion than these 10 years. Me?
Kazuma has created one last chance for us here, Mr. Naruhodo. If we can only show there was a reason for his father's silence in his trial. A reason why the man would have said nothing even though he was innocent. Could it have been part of some negotiation, perhaps?
Enough rhetoric. The court must show the evidence. What proof do you have that could possibly explain Asogi's silence in court?
His silence?
Or his death? The photograph? The ring? Karuma? It is my deep sadness I accept my fate in this foreign land and knowledge that I will never see my homeland, my family, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. What are we gonna press on? Okay, first the photograph, then the will, then the sword, then something else. That's all I got so far. Why would he silence himself? Why?
Take that!
This is the defense answer to that question. Nope. Okay, what's next? The ring?
Take that!
Got the ring. The will? The sword? I have no idea.
Take that!
I have no idea, really. I don't. What exactly do we have?
Take that!
Okay. Okay. I clicked this because I'm just like, okay, I clicked everything else, but I'm just like, okay, wasn't there something about him being in prison? And that's like the dismissal notice. It's true that Gichin Asogi's silence during his trial resulted in the conviction, but that didn't actually lead to his execution. On the contrary, it led to his escape, an escape that was only possible because he's been sentenced to death. Although I find it hard to believe my father would have negotiated in that way, the defense is correct. A fake execution, falsification of death certificate, and a jailbreak inside a coffin. Clearly such an elaborate plan could have been carried out by my father alone. You must have had the help of a collaborator from the judiciary. I have here the dismissal notice of the chief warder who was working in the prison at the time. The notes read, there are indications that the jailbreak was in planning prior to the inmate's incarceration. In other words, there were suggestions of some sort of negotiation between Mr. Asogi and the British government. In exchange for his silence in court, he was given an assurance that he would break out of prison. Yes, with that sort of chat-assign agreement in place, I can imagine he would have been kept very quiet. I would go further that, in fact, I would say that the elaborate jailbreak of Mr. Asogi can be explained in no other way. But he got shot by someone. Or the first fabricated evidence and now jailbreak conspiracy? Of course, because it's all intimately linked. The prosecution wishes to summon new witnesses to stand. Witnesses? People who can testify the jailbreak that took place 10 years ago. Governor Caden? And the proved chief warder of the prison? I won't allow this child to enter this forest to summon the governor of the prison all these years. Oh, it wouldn't be any trouble, my lord. What? Father? Our dear friend may appear a little rattle-pad at times, but I assure you he is extremely thorough. He wired both Barclay and the local prison earlier, asking Governor Caden and Mr. Vigil to attend the Old Bailey as a matter of extreme urgency. Mr. Sholmes did that? Are you telling me that? Both men are, unless I'm much mistaken, waiting just outside the courtroom at this very moment. My lord, you must permit this trial to proceed as you declare as an outset. I mess up. You promised that we would stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Very well. Bring in the witnesses. Make no mistake, I too would like to nothing more to lay business to the rest once and for all. Like and subscribe, sure, because XCB, I'm signing out. Oh, here they are. Oh, he's back. Hold up, let me do this real quick.